Weight loss systems like 21 Day Fix, Atkins, Jenny Craig, and Weight Watchers are all about restricting your diet, counting calories, and starving yourself. She really thought she was doing the right thing, but sadly, she was always disappointed in the end. She would complain of always being hungry at night, and what she soon discovered was that these diets forced her body to store fat. Her body was in complete survival mode. Her body hung on to the few calories she was taking in, and then converted them to fat because she was depriving herself of carbs, which is how your body refuels and gathers energy.
And she thought this was probably the reason, no matter how much she would eat vegetables and exercise,
she still could not drop a single pound, and her muscles wouldn't take shape because she lacked the necessary proteins and nutrients needed to grow them. She would get sick to her stomach, thinking about all the money she wasted on the Weight Watchers, Paleo, South Beach, and Beachbody diet programs that all sucked the money straight out of her bank account. She complained to me that the 21 Day Fix and Weight Watchers portion meals were just too small. She was always hungry after 6 p.m. and couldn't fight the urge to eat. And to make things worse, her doctor also found she had a significant increase in her LDL levels, which is bad cholesterol, and her body was so toxic with fat, her triglycerides levels were over 300, which is critical and could lead to heart disease. Feeling overwhelmed and depressed one evening, she fell to the kitchen floor and bursted into tears, not knowing her daughter was peeking around the corner. She came from behind the door and gently hugged her neck with her sweet, innocent voice. She told her mom the most unusual thing. "Don't cry, Mom. Jesus is going to send you a miracle."
Looking confused, she hugged her daughter and cried on her shoulder, while her daughter gently rubbed her back.
However, doomsday would come on the very next day. Sitting nervously with her legs crossed, waiting impatiently as the minutes tiptoed past like well-marshaled field mice in feather slippers, he said, "Patricia, if you don't lose at least 30 pounds in the next month, I'm not sure how long your heart would be able to withstand your body's current weight. Waiting so long and pushing your health to the side for so many years has caused your blood pressure to reach 160/100.
Your BMI is north of 30, and your cholesterol levels are off the charts."
From years of eating the wrong foods and doing the wrong type of exercises, the fat and cholesterol buildup was immense. Your arteries are in the first stages of hardening, that even very expensive weight loss surgery would be too risky at this point. Patricia was completely devastated and felt even more defeated, almost helpless, thinking to herself, "There's no way I can lose 30 pounds in the next 30 days when I haven't lost 20 pounds in the last 4 years." Now, I'm not telling you any of this to be a sob story or sympathy for Patricia. I'm sharing her story with you because everything happened so fast. Even though she didn't really think she was all that unhealthy, she thought she was just getting up in age.
That is the scary thing about getting older. There is that ticking time bomb inside of you, and it starts counting down at a faster and faster rate. And whether it is inflammation, heart disease, a stroke, or diabetes, or whatever, all of a sudden, any day could be your last. Over the next few days that followed, she was advised to get her affairs in order, explain her condition to her family, and figure out who would take care of her daughter if the worst would happen.
But one thing she dreaded to do was find the words to tell her 9-year-old daughter that she might not be alive to see her turn 10, which was only a few weeks away. But her baby, who she loved to death, repeated those unusual words, "Jesus is going to send you a miracle, Mama." Even though Patricia wasn't an overly religious woman, deep down inside, she hoped it was true. And that is where her story would have ended if an unexpected, life-threatening event that almost wiped me from the face of the earth had not saved her life. I still remember it like it was yesterday. On September 11, 2001, when 2 planes suddenly crashed into the World Trade Center in New York City, my heart sank to the floor as I was watching innocent people jump from the Twin Towers, never to be seen again by their families. And after feeling pissed, hurt, and angry all at the same time, 5 years later I was deep in the trenches, suited and booted, fighting for my country in the dangerous sands of Iraq. After a week of hitting the ground, I was training the troops day and night in an effort to get them in the best shape possible so they could pass their mandatory physical fitness evaluation, which was in weeks. However, I'm embarrassed to say, at that time, I was failing miserably as a trainer because the soldiers, who were all middle-aged men and women with all types of medical ailments, did not lose an ounce of weight. We tried drinking more water, kicked all carbs to the curb. I even went as far as hiding the salt shaker from the dinner table. However, the needle on the scale wasn't budging and their bodies were not taking shape. But then something incredible happened. Something I would have never thought possible would be shared with me in my tent that night by a young medical student from Thailand by the name of Severino, who was recently kicked out of Harvard Medical because he refused to keep quiet about a classified, undocumented medical breakthrough that he conducted a few months ago. As he was making his rounds, he mentioned he saw me training that evening and could feel my pain and frustrations. He came close to my ear and whispered, "Wes, I can tell you're training from the heart, but what you're doing is backwards. Your exercise routines are too long. The carbs your soldiers are eating should be tripled, and their bodies will continue to store fat and lose energy if you keep kidnapping the salt shaker from the dinner table." As you can imagine, I was confused, but then he gave me the science behind it that blew me away. He said the reason why any man or woman who is not losing weight in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or even 60s is because their bodies are experiencing metabolic acidosis.
I said, metabolic who?
He told me that metabolic acidosis occurs when your kidneys can't get rid of food acid properly. This causes your body to store fat and knock your fat-burning cycles out of sync. And no matter how hard you beat the pavement by exercising to death, wearing trash bags, sitting in hot saunas trying to sweat the fat off, going on restricting diets and pouring water down your throat until you pee clear, you will never lose an ounce of fat. Now, even though right before leaving Harvard and receiving a very prestigious award for a successful medical breakthrough that reverses obesity in adults and children at any age, I was still skeptical. He then shared a practical example that would soon turn the tables on everything I've learned in nutrition in the last 10 years. He said, if you leave trash sitting out in your kitchen for days, what will eventually happen? I said, it will start to stink, decay, and rot. Right. Now, what if you leave the same garbage in your kitchen for several months? Well, the smell would be so bad you would think a dead body was decomposing in the kitchen, and not to mention the maggots that would start to appear. Exactly. He said this is the major problem going on internally in most people's bodies. Countless studies show this is the number one reason 93.6% of people struggle with weight loss, even after working for hours and going on restrictive diets. This trash in scientific terms is called acids. An acidic body holds on to fat to protect itself against the acids that weaken the body's immune system and disrupt metabolic processes. And after years of not addressing the core issue, you will gain even more weight, start feeling sporadic chest pains, and because of the accumulation of fat around your arteries, your heart will start to beat irregularly. Or even worse, your once good cells could transmute into carcinogen cells and lead to incurable heart problems. But get this. Latest studies also state most people in large populations, especially in Western cultures, live highly stressful lives, and this stress produces a harmful acid called cortisol, which is our fight or flight hormone that is produced in your body when you are overwhelmed, experience anxiety attacks, dealing with a divorce, depressed about your weight, or even worried about money issues. But it gets even worse. Most people have no energy, are sluggish and tired all the time, and we eat the wrong foods at the wrong hours of the day, which knocks our natural fat-burning cycles out of balance. Then there's the weight loss seesaw effect, where you lose weight but gain it back much faster, not knowing why. And after seeing the pain of defeat in the eyes of the soldiers, who were all on the brink of giving up, Severino took a deep breath and grabbed me firmly on my right arm and said I have the exact formula that would solve the obesity epidemic that is slowly killing men and women all over the world.
And after being kicked out of one of the top universities in the country because I wouldn't keep my mouth shut,
I still have my old Harvard medical binder that has the herbs, minerals, and guidelines that will diminish 10% of body fat in any man or woman over the age of 30 in a matter of a few short weeks. And get this, after the first week, the powerful effects of these herbs and minerals, taken in a very specific order, will not only destroy fat, free radicals, heavy metals, and toxins from the body, but it also contains a powerful enzyme that will awaken youthful energy, beautify the skin cells around your body, and also melt triple the fat from the major fat storing points on your stomach and thigh area. Deep down inside, I wanted to believe him. After training so many people for the past 7 years, my biggest challenge was men and women over the age of 30 who suffer from obesity, joint pain, back problems, diabetes, thyroid conditions, and other metabolic diseases. It really was a huge pill to swallow. So the following morning, Severino walked into my tent carrying a small blue binder containing about 21 pages of sloppy handwritten notes. And he said that inside those pages was everything I would need to rejuvenate the cells in anyone's body, regenerate their fat-burning cycles, and kickstart their metabolism back into gear as it did in their 20s. Jokingly, he called it his drug-free Thai method, and he made me swear that I would follow it after he had left. If I'm completely honest, what he wrote down wasn't even really that complicated, but I was very new to some of the all-natural minerals, herbs, and weight-diminishing formulas he gave me. Then, like a bolt of lightning, it hit me. I remember Severino saying that most of these unknown herbs and minerals are eaten daily by some of the most indigenous and healthiest countries in the world, such as Thailand, Japan, and the Philippines. But the most amazing thing was this. Latest studies show for the past 10 years, these countries have one of the lowest obesity, cancer, and heart disease rates in the world. And not only that, they also live the longest and look the youngest. Then it dawned on me that I may be on the verge of a major breakthrough that may revolutionize the health industry, reverse obesity, and slow the aging process to a crawl. So I humbled myself and spent the entire night tearing through every page of the binder, looking forward to sharing it with the soldiers. I met with each soldier privately on Friday evening with the exact plan and instructions that Severino gave me to use during the weekend. And oh boy, I did not expect to be bombarded with such excitement on a Monday morning. Each and every one of them busted through the doors chattering and bragging about how much sleep they got over the weekend and the surge of energy they felt throughout their bodies. But the mind-boggling things was this. 90% of the soldiers lost an average of 3 pounds over the weekend with light to mild physical activity and did not change their diet whatsoever. It started becoming more and more likely that Severino might be onto something, as they all were sleeping through the night and waking up with more energy and still feeling a dramatic energy boost as the day progressed. They started feeling more and more mentally focused, even with all those harmful high cholesterol and high blood pressure pills floating around inside their bodies. And that wasn't the most fascinating part. Even though Severino's plan forced them to eat more carbs and add more sodium to their foods, which was different from what the current health industry was preaching, they actually began to lose weight at an accelerated rate within the first week. Almost a pound a day was the average. But even with this accelerated weight loss, they didn't feel tired, and that wasn't the amazing thing. They also had 10 times more energy, felt more strength in their muscles, and looked and felt healthier than they've ever felt in years. Not to mention, they were cheating their butts off on the weekends, eating bread and pasta, tearing into homemade pies shipped by their spouses and moms, scarfing down vanilla and strawberry ice cream, basically doing all the things you'd think someone who is trying to lose weight should absolutely avoid, and as you can well imagine, the base trainer in charge was so furious that I was giving them such foods. That jerk went as far as restricting me to the base to prevent me from getting the delicious snacks and sweet tasty desserts that were all on Severino's list. So I had to go secretly on the internet and fast ship the food Severino had prescribed when he wasn't around. And you won't believe what happened next. After a month, the plan Severino gave me went viral around the base. I was helping more people than I could handle. But the intriguing thing was this. Each soldier was required to take a full-grade physical, and my mouth literally dropped to the floor to see men and women in their 40s with LDL levels at 70.
Which is almost perfect.
Even one of the military doctors was so flabbergasted he couldn't put his finger on how 95% of the soldiers he saw that day had a blood pressure reading of 110/80. These types of results are usually found in young children, newlyweds, and youngsters in their 20s. However, with my own 2 eyes, I saw men and women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s with a long history of obesity, heart and metabolic problems. Lab results come back superb. Then things really started to get crazy because civilians and soldiers crowded my living area every evening, all anxious to know what was in this little blue binder that was changing so many lives for the better. And after barking up the wrong tree for so many years to be slapped over the head with this miracle breakthrough, something tragic would happen that would save the life of Patricia. After giving a handwritten version of Severino's plan to almost 300 men and women, that evening, exhausted, I laid my head down on my cot, dreaming about getting back to the States and sharing Severino's plan with the world, to finally have found the hidden treasure to completely transform anyone's body, and show them undeniable proof that you really can slow down